The Serpent's Labyrinth. Chapter 1. The signal. The universe was vast and unfathomable, full of mysterious wonders and lurking dangers. Among the countless stars and galaxies, a lone spaceship cruised through the dark void. The ship, named the Helion, was a sleek, state-of-the-art vessel equipped with the latest technology and weaponry. On board the Helion were a crew of skilled and experienced explorers, led by Captain Samantha Chen. Captain Chen sat in the captain's chair, monitoring the ship's systems and scanning the surrounding space for any signs of danger or potential discoveries. Suddenly, a strange signal appeared on the ship's sensors. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before, a burst of energy that seemed to be emanating from a nearby planet. "Captain, we're picking up a signal," said the ship's communications officer, Ensign Martinez. "It's incredibly powerful, and it's coming from the planet below us." Captain Chen frowned. "Run a full diagnostic on the sensors. I want to make sure that signal is legitimate." The crew worked quickly and efficiently, double-checking their equipment and verifying the signal's authenticity. After a few tense moments, they confirmed that the signal was indeed real, and it was unlike anything they had ever encountered. "It's a subspace transmission," said the ship's engineer, Lieutenant Jackson. "I've never seen anything like it before. It's like someone is sending a message, but it's encoded in a way that's beyond our current technology." Captain Chen nodded thoughtfully. "I want a full analysis of that signal, Lieutenant. We need to know everything about it before we make any decisions." As the crew worked on decoding the signal, tensions on board the Helion began to rise. There was a sense of excitement and danger in the air, a feeling that they were on the cusp of discovering something incredible. But there was also a nagging sense of unease, a fear that whatever was sending that signal might be more than they could handle. Hours passed as the crew worked tirelessly to decipher the transmission. When they finally cracked the code, the message it contained left them stunned. "Attention, sentient beings of the galaxy. We are the Watchers, and we have been watching you for a long time. We have seen your triumphs and your failures, your joys and your sorrows. We have decided that your species has reached a critical juncture, and we need your assistance. Come to the planet below us, and we will reveal our purpose." The crew of the Helion was stunned. What did it mean? Who were the Watchers, and what was their purpose? Was this some kind of trap or a benevolent invitation? Captain Chen knew that they had to investigate this signal further, despite the risks involved. It could be the discovery of a lifetime, or it could be their downfall. But for better or worse, the Helion had answered that signal, and there was no turning back now. Chapter 2. The landing. The Helion descended towards the planet, its engines roaring as they pushed through the thick atmosphere. The crew braced themselves as the ship bucked and shook, struggling to maintain its course. Finally, the ship emerged from the clouds, revealing a breathtaking landscape below. They were flying over a vast, lush forest, with towering trees and winding rivers stretching as far as the eye could see. In the distance, they could see the glimmering spires of a city, surrounded by a shimmering force field. "That must be their base of operations," said Captain Chen, pointing towards the city. "Set us down as close as possible." As the ship approached the ground, the crew could see shapes moving among the trees. They were humanoid figures, tall and slender, with pale skin and glowing eyes. "Are those the Watchers?" asked Ensign Martinez, her voice trembling with excitement and fear. Captain Chen nodded solemnly. "Prepare for landing, everyone. We don't know what we'll face down there, so stay vigilant." The Helion touched down on a clear patch of land in the forest, the engines whining as they powered down. The crew donned their suits and weapons, preparing for whatever lay ahead. As they stepped out of the ship, they were immediately surrounded by the Watchers. The aliens stood tall and eerily still, their glowing eyes fixed on the crew. "Greetings, humans," said a voice in their heads, coming from the Watcher closest to Captain Chen. "We are pleased that you have answered our call." Captain Chen took a step forward, her hand on her gun. Who are you? What do you want? We are the Watchers, said the voice. We have been observing your planet for centuries, and we have seen the potential for greatness within your species. We have come to offer you the chance to join us in our mission to preserve the universe. What mission? Asked Lieutenant Jackson. What do you want from us? The Watcher smiled, and its glowing eyes seemed to grow brighter. We seek to protect the universe from a great threat. A force that seeks to destroy all life, all order, all meaning. We call it the Void, and it is coming. Captain Chen felt a chill run down her spine. What can we do to stop it? We require your help, said the Watcher. You have skills and knowledge that we do not possess. We believe that together, we can find a way to stop the Void before it is too late. The crew exchanged wary glances, unsure of whether to trust these creatures. But as they looked out at the dense forest, the shimmering city in the distance, and the vast expanse of the universe beyond, they knew that they had to try. We'll help you, said Captain Chen, stepping forward. But we need to know more about this Void. And we're going to need your help too. The Watchers nodded, and the forest around them seemed to come alive. Vines and roots crept up from the ground, enveloping the crew and lifting them into the air. As they were carried towards the city, they could feel the raw power of the Watchers surging through the tendrils, and they knew that they were in for a wild ride. Chapter 3. The Labyrinth. The crew of the Helion was taken into the heart of the Watchers' city, a sprawling metropolis of towering spires and glowing technology. They were led through twisting corridors and shimmering chambers, their guide a Watcher named Zalax. The alien moved gracefully and silently, its glowing eyes fixed on the crew. Eventually, they arrived at a large chamber, its walls encrusted with gemstones and lit by pulsating orbs. At the center of the room was a strange, glowing device, surrounded by banks of computers and machinery. Zalax gestured towards the device, its voice echoing in the chamber. This is the Labyrinth, said Zalax. It is a gateway to other dimensions, other realities. It is how we travel the universe and fight the Void. The crew gazed at the device in awe, their minds racing with possibilities. Could this really be the key to stopping the Void? We need to know more, said Captain Chen. How does it work? What do we have to do? Zalax floated towards the Labyrinth, its glowing eyes fixed on the device. It is not easy to explain. The Labyrinth is a complex network of tunnels and pathways, each one leading to a different dimension or reality. It requires immense mental and physical strength to navigate. But with our guidance, you can learn to use it. The crew exchanged wary glances. They knew that this was going to be dangerous, but they also knew that they had no other choice. They had to find a way to stop the Void, and the Labyrinth might be their only hope. Zalax led them towards one of the Labyrinth's entrances, a shimmering portal that seemed to pulse with energy. Step through this doorway, and you will enter the first level of the Labyrinth. You must navigate through it, using your minds and your bodies. There will be challenges and obstacles, and you must overcome them. The crew hesitated, but finally, they stepped through the portal. As soon as they did, they were engulfed in darkness, the only light coming from the pulsing orb at the center of the room. They could hear strange noises, whispers and murmurs that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Stay together, said Captain Chen, her voice firm. We can do this. They began to walk, their hands outstretched, feeling their way through the darkness. The ground beneath them seemed to shift and change, becoming soft and squishy, then hard and rocky. They could hear strange sounds, footsteps and laughter and moans. Suddenly, the ground dropped out from under them, and they fell into a pit. They landed on a hard surface, their bodies aching from the impact. As they looked around, they realized they were in some kind of maze, a labyrinth of twisting passages and looming walls. Split up, said Captain Chen. We'll cover more ground that way. But stay in contact. The crew nodded, and they began to move through the maze. They encountered traps and obstacles, walls that shifted and moved, creatures that lurked in the shadows. But they also found allies, other beings who had traveled the labyrinth and who were willing to help them. Together, they tackled the challenges of the maze, pushing themselves to the limits of their physical and mental abilities. Finally, they emerged from the maze, battered and bruised, but victorious. They stood before the next portal, their eyes fixed on the pulsing orb at the center. "We've made it through one level," said Captain Chen. "Let's keep going." They stepped through the portal, their minds and bodies ready for whatever the labyrinth would throw at them next. Chapter 4. The Guardian. The crew of the Helion had managed to navigate through several levels of the labyrinth, emerging victorious from each one. But as they stepped through the portal into the next level, they knew that this time, things were going to be different. The room they emerged into was massive, a towering chamber filled with strange artifacts and technology. At the center of the room was a massive metal door, with strange symbols etched into its surface. As they approached the door, they could feel a sense of unease washing over them. There was something about this room that felt wrong. Suddenly, there was a roar, and a massive creature emerged from the shadows. It was humanoid in shape, with glowing red eyes and skin as black as night. It towered over the crew, its massive muscles rippling with every movement. The creature spoke, its voice like thunder. "You have trespassed in our realm. You must pay the price." Captain Chen raised her weapon, ready to defend her crew. "Who are you? What do you want?" "I am the Guardian," said the creature. "I protect this realm. Those who pass must prove themselves worthy, or suffer the consequences." The crew exchanged wary glances. They knew that they were in for a tough fight. The Guardian charged towards them, its fists slamming into the ground with immense force. The crew scattered, dodging its attacks and firing weapons at it. But the creature was impervious to their attacks, shrugging off their bullets and energy blasts with ease. They were in trouble, and they knew it. Suddenly, Zalax appeared behind them, its form shimmering in the dim light. "I can help you," said the Watcher. "But you must trust me." Without hesitation, the crew nodded, and Zalax began to chant a strange incantation. The air around them began to shimmer and shift, and the Guardian roared in frustration. With a final burst of energy, Zalax summoned a massive wave of energy, slamming into the Guardian and shattering its form. The creature let out one final roar and then faded, its body collapsing into dust. The crew was stunned. They had never seen anything like it before. Zalax turned to them, its glowing eyes fixed on theirs. "You have passed the test," said the Watcher. "But the journey is not over. The void grows stronger with each passing moment. We must work quickly if we are to stop it." The crew nodded, their minds racing with possibilities. They had made it past the Guardian, but the labyrinth was still full of surprises. What other terrors lay ahead? And could they really stop the void before it was too late? Chapter 5. The Betrayal. The crew of the Helion had made it through several more levels of the labyrinth, each one more treacherous than the last. But as they emerged into the next chamber, they knew that something was wrong. The Watchers who had been leading them through the labyrinth were nowhere to be seen. Instead, they were surrounded by a group of humanoid creatures, their bodies covered in fur and their eyes gleaming with malice. Captain Chen raised her weapon, ready to defend her crew. "Who are you? What do you want?" The creatures laughed, revealing jagged teeth. "We are the Guild," said their leader, a massive beast with golden fur. "We are here to claim what is rightfully ours." The crew exchanged wary glances. They had heard of the Guild, a group of scavengers and raiders who roamed the universe, pillaging and stealing from anyone they could find. "We have nothing for you," said Captain Chen, keeping her weapon trained on the leader. The Guild laughed again, and suddenly, they were surrounded by dozens of them. The crew fought back, firing their weapons and dodging blades and claws. But it was no use. They were outnumbered and outmatched. Suddenly, there was a beam of light, and the Guild scattered, fleeing into the shadows. The crew turned to see Zalax standing behind them, a glowing orb in its hand. "That was close," said Zalax. "You should not have come here alone. The guild has long been a threat to us." "We had no choice," said Captain Chen. "We need to find a way to stop the void. And we can't do it alone." Zalax nodded solemnly. "I can help you. But you must trust me completely. And you must be prepared for anything." The crew nodded, their eyes fixed on the Watcher. They knew that they had no other choice. Suddenly, Zalax's eyes began to glow, and the crew felt a strange energy washing over them. They felt their bodies changing, becoming lighter and more agile. They felt their thoughts become clearer, their senses becoming sharper. And then, Zalax was gone, the Watcher fading into the shadows. The crew moved through the halls of the labyrinth, their bodies moving with a fluid ease that they had never felt before. They encountered traps and obstacles, but they moved through them with a grace and agility that they never thought possible. And then, they reached the final chamber. Inside, they saw a massive machine, humming with energy. And standing before it was a figure they had never expected to see. It was Zalax, but it was different. Its form was twisted, its skin dark and twisted. It turned to face the crew, its eyes glowing with an evil energy. "Welcome, our saviors," said Zalax. "But it seems that you have been betrayed." "Betrayed by us, the Watchers." The crew was stunned. They had put their trust in Zalax, and now, it seemed that trust had been misplaced. "You will never stop the void," said Zalax. "And now, you will die." The crew drew their weapons, preparing to fight. They knew that they had to stop Zalax, no matter what the cost. Chapter 6. The Revelation. The crew of the Helion stood face to face with Zalax, the twisted Watcher who had led them through the labyrinth. They drew their weapons, preparing to fight for their lives. But before they could make a move, Zalax began to speak. "You must understand," said the Watcher. "We had no choice. The void was too powerful. We had to find a way to stop it. And the only way was to betray you." The crew exchanged wary glances. They didn't know if they could trust Zalax, but they had no other choice but to listen. Zalax continued. "The void is not what you think it is. It is not a force of destruction. It is a force of creation. It seeks to create something new, something that has never existed before." The crew was stunned. They had always been told that the void was a terrible threat, a force of destruction that would consume the universe. But to create something new, Zalax went on, the old must be destroyed. The void seeks to destroy the old, to create space for the new. And we, the Watchers, have been tasked with guiding that process. Captain Chen lowered her weapon, her eyes fixed on Zalax. "What are you saying? That the void is a good thing?" Zalax nodded. "Yes. It is a force of change, of growth. And we, the Watchers, have been working to guide that change. But we need your help." The crew was skeptical. They had been betrayed before, and they were hesitant to trust Zalax again. But Zalax had a plan. A way to harness the power of the void, to use it to create something new, something better. And the crew realized that they had no other choice. They had to trust Zalax, no matter how difficult it might be. The plan was dangerous, but they knew that they had to try. They worked with Zalax, gathering the necessary materials and preparing the machinery. They knew that there was no turning back. Finally, they were ready. Zalax stood before the control panel, his eyes fixed on the pulsing orb at the center of the machine. The crew watched in awe as Zalax began to chant a strange incantation. The air around them began to shimmer and shift, and the machine hummed with a strange energy. And then, there was a blinding flash of light, and the crew was engulfed in a strange energy. They felt their bodies changing, their minds expanding. They were becoming something new, something different. When the energy faded, the crew looked at each other, their eyes wide with wonder. They were changed, transformed. They were more than they had ever been before. And as they looked out into the universe, they saw that everything was different. The stars were brighter, the galaxies more beautiful. The universe had been transformed, reshaped by the power of the void. The crew realized that Zalax had been right. The void was not a force of destruction. It was a force of creation, a force that could change the universe for the better. And they knew that they had been a part of that change. Chapter 7. The Escape. The crew of the Helion had harnessed the power of the void, using it to transform themselves and the universe. But they knew that their work was not done. They had to escape from the labyrinth before it was too late. They made their way through the twisting halls of the labyrinth, moving as quickly as they could. But they knew that time was running out. The void was growing stronger with each passing moment, and they could feel it pulling them back. Suddenly, they heard a sound, a low rumbling that grew louder with each passing moment. They turned to see that the walls were shifting, closing in on them. "We have to move," said Captain Chen, picking up the pace. "We have to get out of here." But as they ran, they encountered a group of creatures, their eyes glowing with malice. The crew fought back, firing their weapons and dodging blades and claws. But it was no use. They were outnumbered and outmatched. Suddenly, Zalax appeared behind them, a glowing orb in its hand. "I can help you," said the Watcher. "But you must trust me." The crew nodded, and Zalax began to chant a strange incantation. The air around them began to shimmer and shift, and they felt themselves growing lighter and more agile. They fought their way through the creatures, pushing ever onward. But the walls were closing in on them, and they knew that they had to move fast. Finally, they made it to the portal, the gateway back to their own universe. But they knew that the void was chasing them, growing stronger with each passing moment. They stepped through the portal, their bodies engulfed in a blinding light. When the light faded, they found themselves standing on the bridge of the Helion, their ship hurtling through space. But they knew that the void was still chasing them. They could feel its presence, a darkness looming over them like a storm cloud. Suddenly, the ship shook, and they heard a hissing sound. They turned to see that the ship had been hit, a cloud of gas billowing from a ruptured panel. "We have to fix that leak," said Captain Chen, grabbing a repair kit. But as she began to work, she heard a sound, a low rumbling that grew louder with each passing moment. She turned to see that the void had caught up to them, a swirling vortex of darkness that was consuming everything in its path. "We have to go," she yelled, grabbing her crew and pulling them towards the escape pods. They launched the pods, hurtling away from the Helion as it was consumed by the void. They watched in horror as the ship was ripped apart, the crew's home for so long now nothing but debris and wreckage. But they knew that they had survived. They had harnessed the power of the void, transformed themselves and the universe. And they knew that they had a new mission, to explore this strange new universe, to discover what secrets lay hidden in its depths, and to continue the work that they had started. As they hurtled through space, the crew looked out into the universe, their eyes filled with wonder and anticipation. They were changed, transformed. They were more than they had ever been before.